Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 10. This camp spot is so cool. Check out this tree. It's unlike any other tree I think I've seen. And there's a creek over there, and I think that's where it's getting all the water. But you can see, I mean, this thing, it's just so different. It's got all these crazy features, and honestly, it looks really tough. Like it's just been through a lot. And it is a massive tree in the middle of the desert, basically. And it's got these branches, like this one just goes straight back into the ground, which is kind of weird. And then it bounces off and it creates another tree, and it just kind of spirals out. And this one reaches over, and someone's obviously cut a section off of there. And I don't know if this is one tree or multiple trees. It's so cool. But either way, that's where I called camp. Had a great fire last night, burned a ton of wood, stayed up, watched the stars. They were phenomenal. And now the sun is coming up. It's a very chilly morning. It's hard to tell because there's no frost on the ground, but it's properly cold. So it's time for me to pack up camp, get loaded up into the Pajero Mini, and hit the road. This has been an absolutely beautiful morning and a beautiful drive. You can see the colors are finally starting to change here in southern Utah. Back at home, we've already had like feet of snow at this point. So as I head north, the weather is going to be much more of a challenge. But while I'm down here, I'm just gonna enjoy the fall. This drive has been amazing. I'm over here next to this little creek or river. That's what I camped next to last night that fed that giant tree. So there's all sorts of other cool trees over here, like this one, that just rely on this little bit of water. It's just really cool to see it out here. But this is one of those classic situations where I want to look around, I want to see the sights, but also this road is just so fun to bomb down. I'm almost back on the highway, and I found this rock, so I decided I'm gonna air up. I've got a little bit of highway to go. I've got to get some gas, got to get some supplies, and then I'm gonna be airing right back down again to hit the road and hit another about 100 miles of dirt. All right, I'm out of Coyote Canyon, hitting the highway, and I am headed east. I've made it back into civilization, and I was originally going to go to Lake Powell and do all the touristy things. However, after yesterday and how much fun I had, I think the right thing to do is to go and explore stuff that I normally wouldn't. I can always come back here later with friends or family or my wife or so and like go and explore these really touristy areas. But right now I've got the time and I've got the ambition to go adventuring. And so I've picked out a different route where I'm gonna still interact with Lake Powell, hopefully go to some sweet overlooks, hopefully actually get in the water at some point. That would be pretty rad, but it's all gonna be backcountry. So I'm all loaded up with supplies here. I wasn't able to get like a real dinner, and so I gotta figure that out. Hopefully I can make it to Escalante, or Escalante, apparently as the locals call it, by the time the grocery stores close. So I'm headed up north. Let's go see if we can find some adventure. I'm back on dirt, all aired down. I'm ready to hit the trail. So we should be headed to a point where I can actually get in the water here at Lake Powell. That's the hope. I've seen a lot of other cars coming this way, and so it's a pretty well-traveled road. I'm not too worried about it. But either way, we're gonna have a good time. So the scenery out here is beautiful. Of course it is. And this dirt road, or this gravel road rather, has been really tame. It's been very mild, no real issues. But up here is supposed to be my turn to get onto a harder trail that's supposed to take me down by the water. So hopefully it's not too difficult, but I do hope it's a little more entertaining than just this gravel road. Here it is, Warm Creek, Crosby Cannon. That's where we're headed. Let the adventure begin. It's definitely more rutted in here, but I'm down in this wash and it's so cool. The sandstone walls just kind of towering above you. Pretty sick. The road surface is pretty good. It doesn't seem like I'm digging in at all. It doesn't look like other cars have either, so I'm not too worried about getting stuck. There is a decent amount of sand here, and so if you go off the trail, it's real easy to get bogged down real fast. And I'm hoping to not get stuck. It'd be very easy to bury this car in some kind of dune or sand trap, given that I don't have a lot of ground clearance. This is awesome. This road did get a lot more fun, and check out this sandstone. Being down on this wash is great, and I'm tucked in right here underneath this whole thing. It's pretty wild. Pajero Mini's running great, sounding great. This is a sweet spot. There it is, my first glance of the water coming around the corner here. Oh man, I wonder if it's warm enough to go swimming in. Going down to the lake. I am fairly confident that I have the horsepower to get out of here. This thing's done so well in the sand so far. There's only one way to find out at this point. This is beautiful. We made it to the lake and it's beautiful out here. It's actually really nice and warm. I was really cold this morning. It's definitely getting pretty late in the season. Too late for most people, but it's pretty warm right now. So I think I have got to try to swim in this, at least jump in. All right, here we go. Oh. Oh, it feels great. Woo! Nothing like a good lake shave. It's so nice and warm down here. I can't imagine how hot this gets in the summer. I've heard like 115, which for a water place, that's okay because you can just jump in. But this is like the perfect temperature right now. Just got a little refreshed in the water. Got a shave in. I'm going to soak this in for a few minutes, and then we're back to pounding the gravel. It is so still and peaceful out here. That's been a theme for the last 2 days as I've been getting out into these backcountry places away from the touristy stuff. It's just so quiet and so still. And the wind has died down. There's like no wind at all here, at least not right now. This is awesome out here. So as much as I'd like to hang out here all day for the rest of the week, I do want to go exploring. So I'm going to get off this beach. I get to bomb back down the canyon I just came in, which is kind of fun because normally you only get to see things going one way. I get to see it going both ways, and I think that'll be pretty cool. And then I'm going to hit that gravel road again and keep heading east and north. And just as expected, this thing's climbing out of here, no problem. Back out on the main road, and I'm going to go try to find a viewpoint. It looks like there's a spot somewhere over there where I could get up and look down on the lake. And that sounds like a good time. So I'm going to go head towards that. I think we've made it to the first of a few viewpoints. Looks pretty sweet over the edge right here. Oh, this is sight. Pajero Mini is doing great. However, this side of the road is pretty bumpy. So there'll be sections where you can go like 30 and then you've got to slow down and you've got to navigate either a bump or a bunch of rocks. And so it's kind of stressful driving it because you're constantly going from fast to slow to fast to slow to fast to slow. I'm in and out of all the gears all the time. So it's not quite as enjoyable as the long twisties that I've been driving on for most of the day. However, it's worth it to get to points like this. So I'm going to jump back in this and head down this way. Supposedly there's a couple more lookouts, ones that actually look over the lake. So I'm gonna go find those. Open differentials definitely make you less capable, but they force you to be a better driver, I think. It really forces you to know your car and pick your line. And I'm getting better at driving this thing. Found another fun viewpoint that I want to explore, and hopefully I will not regret coming down this little obstacle. I don't think I will, but we'll see. Once again, just an epic spot. There's actually a campsite right over here. I can't imagine camping on the edge of this cliff. One, it'd be a little scary if you got up in the middle of the night to pee and didn't know where you were going, but I mean, it'd just be so cool to hang out here all day. You've got the lake in the background, and with the Pajero like this, it reminds me of Top of the World in Utah, which inspired me to recreate one of my favorite and my wife's least favorite photos. So that's me hanging off the bumper of the Gen 3, and I just had to recreate it here. Not quite the drop that Top of the World is, but still pretty significant. How cool. Now I gotta see if I can get out of here. Same way I got in. It doesn't look too challenging, but I guess we'll see. Not a problem. Well, the trail to this next viewpoint has definitely gotten a lot rougher. More fun for sure. Getting to navigate all these little rocks and play around on this stuff. But it is slow going. So hopefully it's worth it. I have a feeling it will be, especially if it overlooks the lake, but things have definitely slowed to a crawl. Coming down to the end of the trail, and this is looking like it was totally worth it. I just got out here to admire this amazing view, and it is amazing, but I looked down and I saw my tire and my sidewall is all scratched up. It's not leaking any air, but I definitely took an impact. You can see this whole chunk right here, is pulled up. It's not leaking any air, but it looks like I also got it right there. I don't know what happened, and then it's scuffed up right here, which I'm not worried about, but I am worried about that taking another hit. And I'm not close to anything at all. So thankfully, I actually brought a solution for this. When I packed for this trip, this is one of the only things that I brought as far as safety gear for the car. My buddy makes this glue tread, and it's a complete tire repair kit. So he's got everything in here. He's got your traditional style plugs, so you can actually like plug something that's in the tread. He's even got a screw-in valve stem so that if you rip one of these off, you can just screw that in and seal it up. But then he's also got this sidewall patch kit, and it's the only company that I know that actually makes a sidewall patch kit that works. So I was really hoping not to use it, but now I'm really glad that I have it, especially since I'm way out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get brushed up on these instructions, make sure I follow them to a T, get this all prepped, and hopefully lay this patch on it. And yeah, hopefully that won't cause any issues for the rest of the trip. Now I do have a spare tire, but this is like emergency use only, because one, it's the same age as the car. So it's almost 30 years old and it's not the right size. I wasn't able to fit a full size spare on here. So I'm just rocking this one for now. I'm thinking that's got to change in the future, but hopefully this gets me home. So the first step is to sand down the area with the provided very high grit sandpaper. And I did my best to get all this lettering and everything else as smooth as possible. Obviously, when there's some tearing, that's just what it is. The second step is to put this adhesive in. And so I'm going to lift up these edges and put the adhesive in. You're supposed to hold that together for a minute, and then you're supposed to sound it one more time. I'll tell you what, this is not exactly how I thought I'd be spending this time on the side of the cliff, but it's a good spot to do it. Okay, the next step is to apply the adhesive in a dot pattern. And apparently it's very important that you actually do this correctly. It says more adhesive is not better. So I'm going to trust that. Okay, now that I got that, I'm supposed to put this on here. I'm supposed to apply pressure to the patch evenly for 3 minutes. And now that it's on there, the only thing I have to do is let it cure for 10 minutes, which is great. That means I get to look at this. It's been 10 minutes. The patch is looking good. Guess there's nothing left to do but to keep rallying it all day and see if it holds. I have pretty good confidence that it'll hold on to there, and there's no real way to tell if it's working at this point because it wasn't leaking in the first place, but way better to have that patch on there now than to blow that whole sidewall out and put myself in a real bind. So I'm thankful I had that kit. I was hoping not to use it, but it gave me a little bit of extra confidence coming out here, knowing that pretty much no matter what happened to a tire, I could probably get it good enough to get it off the trail. But that one, I'm hoping it's good enough to get me all the way home. So I'm done here. This has been just a spectacular place. The view of the lake is incredible from here, but I'm losing daylight and I still think I have like 60 miles of dirt to cover. So I gotta hit the road. I'm off the side road and back onto the fun, flat, regular road. That was Alstrom Point that I went to. That was a sweet little spot and I'm glad I took the time to do it. However, it does put me a little bit behind. My plan was to be north of Escalante today so that I could have a quick trip into Moab tomorrow. We'll see if I make it. I have about between 60 and 70 miles of dirt to go. And I'm making pretty good time. On this main road, I'm going about 35 miles an hour. I can move pretty quick. This thing's super fun to drive. It's loving it. But that still puts me quite a bit of ways out from getting into town. So hopefully I can get there because I don't really have a dinner plan. I was kind of counting on that grocery store. So I'm just gonna lock in, cruise on this road, and hopefully make it there by sundown. I might have bitten off more than I can chew in one day. This road's gotten a little bit worse, which is fine. I'm okay with a bad road. The Pajero Mini is doing fine, but I'm getting pretty beat up. I've been on this thing for maybe 20-ish miles, and it's definitely that kind of like fast stop, work our way over an obstacle, and then there's kind of a dip in the road, so you can't just like bomb down it. And I'm going quick, but I'm not going like super fast. I'm not trying to beat on the car. I'm not trying to put it through any more harm than it needs to. However, I just got to the intersection with the next road, and it looks like it's going to be even more challenging, and it's another 25 miles before it intersects with anything else. So the sun is about to set. It's like 5 p.m. here, and I'm kind of weighing my options. At this point, I'm equidistant from where I want to be and where I just was. So at this point, I might as well go through. It's just looking like it might be a long, bumpy night. Turns out 150 miles on dirt in one day is maybe a little much for the Pajero Mini. Here we go. It definitely looks doable. Just pretty bumpy. I will say this trail is very pretty. It's pretty awesome to carve through this little canyon and go in and out of these washes. This trail is way more fun than what I was doing earlier. Like, it's actually challenging, and you're kind of meandering, and you got to think about it. So I'm enjoying that. And I'm not opposed to wheeling at night. I'm not opposed to turn on the lights. Just keep trekking on. Might be a good way to spend the evening. Well, it certainly is a beautiful sunset, and I'm enjoying this trail. But before I went any further, I wanted to do a health check on the Pajero Mini. So I've got the hood popped here, and everything's looking completely normal. The coolant is good, the oil is good. Nothing seems to be running weird at all under the hood. The tires are even doing good as well. And here's that patch that I put on, and it's holding up just fine. I don't know if I've bumped it into anything, but when you push on it, man, it feels solid. So I'm thankful it's on there, especially because I thought, man, I'm just gonna rip that sidewall off, and then who knows what would happen. So I've got that taken care of, and it doesn't look like it's leaking at all. Coming over to this side, these tires are looking good as well. Honestly, the Pajero Mini's doing really good. It's very happy to be out here, to be crawling low and slow. I'm taking more of a beating than it is. I also wanted to show you guys down here. I was really surprised by this. It's gonna be hard to see, but there's that CV boot fix, and it's still there. After, like, I don't know, almost 200 miles of dirt, that CV fix is still there. So that's a really good sign. So I'm taking a little bit of a break here. I'm gonna get a couple snacks, get a drink, and I'm gonna keep making my way down this trail. I'm not really sure what my plan is for the rest of the night. I think I'm gonna wheel until it gets dark, and then maybe after it gets dark, if I can find a place to camp, I'll call it for the night. But we'll just have to see. Seems like now might be a good time to talk about what it's actually like to wheel the Pajero Mini. I've taken it on some more challenging stuff, some easy stuff. I've taken it on a lot of dirt roads, and I'm learning a lot every time I go out. The first thing is I've got the tire pressure pretty dialed between like 12 and 15 PSI. I find that that's the perfect spot for enough ground clearance and enough squish in the tire. I could probably go lower, but then you lose that ground clearance, and at that point, you're not quite there. But you have to be pretty close to that low, like 10, 12, in order to get these tires to actually deform, because the car doesn't weigh anything. So you need to go a little lower than maybe you'd be comfortable with, but it seems to work just fine. I haven't had any issues with debeating, and I don't think I will. And it rides pretty good. The other thing to get used to is its stick shift, and it's got a turbo, which makes it really interesting because this thing does not have low end torque. It just doesn't. And so the gearing is really good on it, but first gear is really, really low, which is great for climbing up things. However, you run through that gear at crazy speeds. So here's an example of where first gear is really helpful. This is a pretty steep grade with some rocks, and I'm going, I don't know, like 2 miles per hour. It's at 3,000 RPM. But if I get on the gas, it's gonna spool up and start moving pretty quick, and it's hard to control it. So right here, you just gotta be really slow, easy on the throttle. You gotta pick your line, you gotta keep that momentum. There's a decent sized rock right there. You gotta keep that going because you don't have the low end torque. So you can't lug it, but as soon as you get into the boost, it wants to run away from you, and that gets more challenging. Yes, check out this obstacle right here. Yes, I love the Pajero Mini. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. I think that the best way I can describe it is it feels almost exactly like driving a 2-stroke dirt bike on the trail. If you've ever done this, especially the older ones that weren't really meant to be ridden on the trail, what you've got is you've got almost no low end, and so you have to gear them way down, and so you're in first or second. But then as soon as you need to hit an obstacle, you have to give it the beans, and when you give it the beans, then you hit the power band, and all of a sudden the thing wants to fly away from you. And that's kind of what this feels like. Is I'll be on an obstacle and I'll know I need to give it a little more power, but I can't give it just a little more. Instead, I have to give it a lot, and it starts to get away from you. So it's been a learning curve. I'm also not that good at driving stick off-road. That's just on me. So I've had to learn the balance there. But the real key with it that I've learned is as long as I can lock into an RPM and a speed and just maintain that, it's got enough power to chug through it, and it's happy as a clam. As long as I pick the right line, I can keep the tires on the ground, and I can meander through it. The other thing I think the Pajero Mini does really well is, for the size of the vehicle, it actually flexes really well. It's got a decent amount of articulation in the rear. The front is obviously independent. And when you measure it compared to like other trucks and other cars, the flex number, like the actual inches, isn't that much. But for the size of the vehicle, for the stature of the car, it does pretty good. And so that actually helps put the tires where they need to be. And the other thing that's really, really good about it is I can pick just about any line. I'm not limited to some of the full-size lines, some of the full-size obstacles. I have about half the track width is what it feels like. And so I can pick a line that is way easier and way better suited for this car. The main downside, of course, as you can probably guess, is ground clearance. Even though I have almost a perfect approach angle and departure angle, the last thing on the car is the bumpers, I'm still hitting my front bumper when I'm approaching things because I'm just not very far off the ground. The other thing that really is hard is these tires are 28 inches, which isn't too small. It's big for this car, but because they're so small, it's hard for me to grip and climb up things. And so little tiny rocks that on 33s, 35s, you would just roll over. These I'm having to actually think about. I'm having to hit it with a little momentum or really bump it with the clutch, which is not ideal. And that's the hardest part. But as soon as you kind of wrap your mind around that, and as soon as you start to figure out how to plan for it, it's pretty good. I mean, I'm having a blast out here. I'm cruising. I'm not getting stuck anywhere. I'm having fun going up obstacles. It's not like I'm just beating on the thing. And I've only hit the skid plate a handful of times, and I've hit the cross member for the transfer case a few times as well, but like barely, just little tiny scuffs, no body damage at all, no structural damage. It's just a fun little wheeler. Here's what it's like in first gear going down a hill. Foot barely on the brakes. Just got to navigate around some rocks here. Really easy to do with this short wheelbase and also having the front tires and the rear tires be pretty much the ends of the vehicle. You can see I'm just creeping, and it's not even registering on the speedometer. Makes it really nice for descending hills. So the sun is just about set out here, and I think I've talked myself into some night wheeling. I really enjoy night wheeling. It just adds another element, adds to the adventure. And the other thing is there's not really good camp spots around here. We're basically on the ridge of this mountain. And so if there was a good campsite, I might consider it, but I haven't seen one in a while. And this road goes on for quite a bit longer. So I think I'm gonna mentally prepare to be out all night wheeling, which, like I said, that sounds pretty fun to me. If the Pajero Mini is happy, I'm happy. But we'll kind of continue on and see what adventures await. This is kind of a sweet thing to find in the middle of the dark, in the middle of the night. This is an old track from what I can only assume is either a piece of mining equipment or a bulldozer or something. There's the road. It's just off here to the side. This is so sick. I love finding stuff like this, just this old metal. I love that people left it out here too. I think it just tells a story. This isn't litter. This is art to me. So cool. So it's about 6:30 and I'm on this ridge and I'm having a great time just wheeling around. So I'm just gonna keep going. So I've pulled off to the side of the road. I found a sweet camp spot. I think it's right on the edge of one of these kind of drainages. And I think I'm going to call it for the night. I've been wheeling around in the dark for about 2 hours, and it's really fun. But I have this sneaking suspicion that I'm going to want to see where I'm at in the morning. I've been following this ridge line for the last like 30 minutes, and I just get little glimpses off the side that it's really, really cool. So I found a spot. There's no wind. The sky is completely clear. I think the stars are going to be amazing tonight, and I've got tons of firewood. So I'm going to call it here for the evening, which means I didn't make it to the grocery store, which means I have to eat my backup dinner, which will be interesting. So here's dinner. I've got a can of Spam and this ramen branded rice bowl. This has been my backup dinner in case I ended up in a situation like this. And at this point, I'm pretty excited about the Spam. I'm gonna fry it up in my griddle. I'm gonna cut it nice and thin. I actually like Spam. This rice, I'm a little more concerned about. This is definitely purchased at a gas station and probably has enough salt for the rest of my life in it. But hey, it's food, and I'm excited to eat it next to this campfire. That's the good stuff. Cut the Spam into thin slices. Throw it on this cast iron. Get these babies nice and grilled up. This rice only had microwave instructions, so I'm kind of making it up. But I'm assuming if you add boiling water to the line that they have in there, that it'll still work. Spam is looking ready. Oh yeah. This stuff fries up so good. The rice, on the other hand, is looking a little bit wet, but here's the secret, is I'm gonna fry it. And there you have it, Spam and fried rice while camping. They say everything tastes better when you're camping. We'll see how this tastes. So that's a wrap on day 10. Day 10 has been a great day. Getting to wake up in Coyote Canyon, bomb around there, see some beautiful stuff, and then getting to hit the back roads outside of Page, Utah, and seeing Lake Powell, getting away from the tourists. It's been phenomenal. I think my favorite part of today was hitting those really fast roads, those dirt or gravel roads, just hauling on those in the Pajero Mini. At one point, I think I was doing like 40 or 45 miles an hour, just singing along, and the Pajero Mini did great. It handles so well. I'm starting to get a real good feel of like when it's gonna slide just a little and when it's gonna grip and how it wants to maneuver. It's just so much fun on these roads. And I got to see some really beautiful stuff. Lake Powell did not disappoint. The landscape there is just so crazy. It's wild to see how erosion and the water over time has just moved things around. It's pretty awesome. Now I am a little bit behind schedule, and schedule is a loose thing, but I was hoping to be pretty close to Moab tonight, and I was hoping to spend the day in Moab tomorrow. However, it's not a huge deal. I can just delay my day in Moab by a bit. I already had 3 days to hang out there, and so I've got plenty of time. And so tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and hopefully make my way out of here. I still have probably about 15 miles of this rougher trail, which I'm enjoying, by the way. It's a great trail. It's just very slow. I think I've got another 15 miles of this, and then maybe another like 40 miles of dirt before I get to any kind of town, the nearest town being Escalante. Hopefully they've got fuel. I'm at about a half tank right now, and I should be able to make it. Keyword is should. I've got those 2 gallons in my reserve tank, so I feel pretty good about it. This thing actually gets amazing gas mileage out here in the dirt, even when you're kind of beating on it and driving fast. I've got a good fire going, and actually dinner was pretty good. Here's my hot take on dinner. The Spam fried on the cast iron, delicious. It's just good stuff. The top ramen style rice, like a 2 or a 3 out of 10. I went with the rice over the noodles, and I think that was a mistake. Probably should have stuck with the ramen. That probably would have been better, but I felt like it complemented the Spam better. I don't know. I'm hoping tomorrow to get a steak. That's the dream. That's the goal, is to get a steak to celebrate the fact that I had to eat my bonus meal. This point where I'm at right now is probably the most remote spot I've been this entire trip. I am way out here in the boonies. I'm probably about 3 hours from the nearest person would be my guess. I haven't seen anyone in a long time. And the roads getting here are pretty hard, and there's no fast way to get either location unless you, of course, flew a helicopter in. And so it feels pretty special to be out here, have a big warm fire, have beautiful stars. There is no light pollution. I cannot see another light anywhere around me, and I'm on top of this ridge. It just feels super special. So this is a great way to cap off day 10. Thanks for joining me in this adventure, and I'll see you guys in the morning.